ETFs. Issue 2 Bitcoin futures ETFs are here, paving the way for spot based ETFs. Yes, you can finally buy Bitcoin on the stock market, but it's only Bitcoin futures. There are no Bitcoin spot ETFs yet. Josh Shigala, what's the difference between a futures based ETF and a spot based ETF, and which one of them is good for Bitcoin?
The major thing that people should really watch out for with any ETF isn't whether it's a future or it's a spot, and it's really what is it settled in? Is it settled in cash, or is it settled in actual rare numbers in Bitcoin? Are these ETFs buying Bitcoin in the background and storing them for their clients? If not, then just stay away from them and buy yourself some Bitcoin. Even if they are, I'd say stay away from them and buy yourself some Bitcoin. But that's on a different story. Futures are an interesting gamble. Futures came about from farmers who wanted to sell their crops first without having the money up front. So they would sell the crops at the price the crops are now, which is usually what it is. And then if the crop got wiped out from a big storm, hey, it didn't matter because you actually sold the crop beforehand. And if you did get it, then the buyer would get a good deal because when it goes to market, it's a certain price. So it's these sort of strange instruments, these financial instruments as such. To me, I'm a simple guy, just like a lot of people out there. We're simple people. And basically, all I want is some rare assets. This is why I'm into gold as well. I like having something physical that sits in a vault. I don't like having money in banks because banks do all sorts of fun and games with my money. Gold, it sits there in a vault, gathering dust and holding value. Bitcoin sits in cold storage, just holding value. Doesn't quite gather dust because it's virtual, but it's beautiful like that, and that's where I like it. And that's actually spot. So I would go with spot if anything.
Lamar Wilson, Bitcoin ETF, spot or futures?
I would think spot, because in the United States, what I found out just by talking to a few folks and kind of investigating is that if you have a spot-based ETF in the United States, you have to have the underlying asset. And so therefore, it makes sense for somebody like GBTC to launch a spot-based ETF because they have so many Bitcoin already. But the thing that I see is that as more and more of these entities go out into the market to create these spot ETFs, what will happen is I think they're going to have a tremendous amount of demand because they will have demand for their issuance, and they'll have to go out into the market and buy it at whatever the price is at that moment. So I think that'll actually push the market to higher heights. I think the only thing that's stopping a spot is that you have around the globe these unregulated exchanges from a price perspective, like the UOBs and the Binances of the world, that I think a lot of people don't want them to be able to manipulate what's going on with an ETF, right? So I think that's what's probably holding it back, but we'll see. We'll see how fast they go. I think GBTC actually has a really good shot because of the amount of they have. So I think I'd rather go spot than I would go futures, but at the same time, I also rather go just pure Bitcoin so you can custody your own stuff than I would ETFs.
A unique advantage for GBTC, as you say, because they already own the underlying asset. Anyone else looking to make their own spot ETF would have to buy a great deal of Bitcoin, thus moving the market. Or maybe it's easier just to buy Grayscale. Maybe Bank of America or another large entity is out there and they're just going to say, well, we want to make a Bitcoin spot ETF. This company has a bunch of, maybe buy MicroStrategy. I don't know. Maybe that's a bigger strategy, a macro strategy. Dan, Eve, your thoughts on spot Bitcoin ETFs versus futures?
So I definitely, agree that the spot, because they have to have the underlying asset, it makes sense. Obviously, there will be a positive price impact, but on the same footing, right? Surely there will be potential negative impact if they need to sell out. But I think that the main thing that's good about the ETFs, even if ultimately people should be holding their own Bitcoin and they should be hodling their private keys, but the thing that you can't do if you've got a pension, for example, is use it to buy, say, Bitcoin, but you can use it to buy into an ETF that will allow you to have Bitcoin with money that you can't currently touch. So I see that as kind of a real benefit, the fact that you can you can eke into Bitcoin with money that's not accessible until you're like 70 or 80 or whatever age they make it to by the time you retire. But spot all the way.
Very good. Moving on to the exit question, and I know we're very tired of talking about ETFs. We talked about them for years. We got one. The price went up. The market's happy. Shouldn't that be enough? But now we have to worry about spot versus futures. Will they approve? Will they launch a spot ETF in the United States in the next 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, or never? Josh Shigala.
2 years. Give them 2.
2 years, a complicated regulatory environment. Lamar Wilson.
Yeah, I'll definitely say 2. I would say 6 to be aggressive, just because we see the futures one. But just to make sure that I'm more close to right, I'll say 2 years.
2 years. Dan, Eve, are you also going with 2?
I think less than 2, because the floodgates have opened, right? We've gone from 1 to 2 within a very short space of time. There's going to be more. There's going to be loads of excitement and loads of buzz. Maybe if a spot request comes in before the end of the bull market, then it might get approved. But if it's after this bull market's over, then I think we'll be looking at 2 years plus.
I like Lamar's grayscale idea. I like them of, they're already there. They already have a ticker symbol. They're already buddies with the right people. They just kind of roll in, grease some hands, have a Bitcoin ETF in less than a year. Let's go less than a year, joining Dan and the Rebel Party there.